right?
Mm.
Okay, now, so let's go over these. Any problems with the first section, defining a circle? This is a bunch of vocabulary words. So things that we've not talked about that we were actually going to start talking about before this whole started was tangents, concentric circles, and secants. So
Those are guided notes or assignments?
guys, so we know what is a radius, what is a diameter, etc. So let me draw a circle. Okay, so remember a chord is any line segment within a circle whose endpoint is that circle. Radius is the center of the circle to the edge. And diameter is basically a chord that goes through the center of the circle. So these are the things that we've already talked about in class. Now, the new thing that they talked about was a secant and a tangent. All a secant is a line like this. It starts from some point right on the outside and goes through the circle. Okay, and it intersects the circle at 2 points. Okay, and that any line that intersects the circle at 2 points is known as a secant. And a tangent is kind of like a secant, but instead of intersecting at 2 points, it just intersects at 1 point on the edge of the circle. So it starts on the outside and intersects at 1 point. So if it intersects at 1 point, it's a tangent. If it intersects at 2 points, we call that a secant. Right. And that's really the only difference. So a secant is a line that actually forms chords within the circle. All right. So secant is a line that forms a chord within the circle. And obviously, if that secant goes through the middle of the circle, that chord that it forms is the diameter. Now, something about tangents and the radius and diameters. If you have a radius of a circle, it is always perpendicular to the tangent at the point of where the tangent intersects. Okay? So whenever you have a radius or a diameter of a circle, it intersects at the tangent and forms a right angle. It's a 90-degree angle that it forms. So it's perpendicular. And the point where the tangent intersects the circle is called the point of tangency.
I was feeling good too.
Okay, and that's all it is. So where the tangent intersects is called the point of tangency, and the radius and diameter are perpendicular to the tangent at that point. Any questions?
No.
Now, concentric circles.
Oh, that's a bad house.
All concentric circles are circles that are within one another. These are concentric circles, circles within circles. Okay, they don't intersect; they just are within each other. Okay, concentric circles. So, any questions on any of those?
What's the difference? What's the
What's the what?
difference between a chord and a
Gotcha.
secant?
What's the difference between a chord and a concentric circle?
A secant.
A chord is the part of the line that's within the circle. So if you have a circle, a secant is any line that starts on the outside and intersects the circle at 2 points. Okay, so this is a secant. The whole line is a secant. The part that's within the circle is the chord. Okay. The part that's within the circle is the chord. And of course, if that chord goes through the center, it's called the diameter. That's the relation. Okay. What else do they talk about here? All circles are similar, and in order for circles to be congruent, the radius have to be the same. So all concentric circles are similar. Okay, and remember, what does it mean to be
That day you left, took you home. Note pulled up.
similar? Similar means that the radiuses are proportional to each other. So, and a semicircle is half a circle. Okay. Now, any questions about the first thing? So that one should have been like an easy no-brainer, if you will. Okay. So now the next assignment was central angles. Does anyone want a review of central angles? What is the central angle and the relationship to the relationship to the arc?
Yesterday I had a question on a quiz. It was talking about like a ratio with angles.
A ratio?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was having trouble. I was having trouble, and I tried to text you, but.
Okay, so remember what we talked about. We said that when all circles are similar. Okay, so in order for something to be similar, they have to be in ratio to one another. So let's take two concentric circles. Okay, concentric circles are circles within circles that have the same radii. Okay. So let's say, for example, this radius is, for the smaller circle, 5, and for the larger circle, the radius is, say, 7. Okay. Then the ratio of the radii are 5 to 7. That means everything is in relationship to 5 to 7. Okay. So that means the diameters are in the same relationship, 5 to 7. The circumference are in the same relationship, 5 to 7. Okay. So if I said that the circumference of the outside circle is, say, 21, what is the circumference of the inside circle? Well, cross multiply. And solve. So that means the inside circle is 15. Does everyone see that? So that's what it means to be similar. Now, if they have the same radii length, that means they're not similar, they're congruent. They're the exact same size circle. Okay. Does that make sense, Julian?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what do we know about the relationship between the three sides of a right triangle? Does anyone remember how the three sides of a right triangle are related? What is the famous theorem that relates all three sides of a right triangle?
Oh, a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Right. So if this side is 3 and this other side is 4, what would this side be?
3, 4, 5.
5, yeah. So
all right.
now let's talk about a circle, and let's have a tangent to that circle. Tangent to that circle. Now remember, we said the point where the line is tangent is known as the point of tangency. And the radius and diameter is always perpendicular to the tangent at that point of tangency. So here's the question. If I know that this, let's say, let's do this. If I know from here to here is, say, 12, and I know from here to here is, say, 16. What, my question is, what would this be? What would this length be right here? This piece right here. How do you think I can figure that out?
Ask the question again, Mr. D.
Okay, so
Oh, you gonna do like 12 over 16 or something like that.
well, we know this part right here. We know this part right
Oh.
here is 12,
12
right?
squared plus 16 squared equals, I don't know, x plus 16 squared?
Yeah, 12 squared plus 16 squared equals this whole thing. So this whole thing will be whatever 12
X
squared,
plus 16 squared.
okay? Because remember, this is the hypotenuse of this right triangle. So this forms a right triangle. And we know it's a right triangle because the radius is always perpendicular to the tangent at the point of tangency. So because this is a 90-degree angle, that makes this triangle a right triangle. Okay. Now, so we can use Pythagorean theorem, and if we calculate it, we get that C is 20. Okay, 12 squared is 144. 16 squared is, I think, what?
A big hand number.
16 squared is 216, I think.
256.
256. So that gives me C squared is 400. So C is 20. That means this whole thing is 20. But that's not what I'm asked to find. Okay, I'm asked to find this piece. So how can I use the information that I just found to find what that small piece is? Remember, this is what I'm looking for right here, this small piece right here. Any takers?
You gonna do what I just said, like the little 12, 16, then X and 20.
Well, yeah, we found the whole thing to be 20, right? So, guys, here's the thing. What do I know about this length right here? What is this?
Oh, minus 16. 20 minus 16.
Why is this 16? How do I
Because
know?
the radius.
It's also a radius. Remember, in a circle, all the radii are the same. So, if from here to here is 16, then from here to here is also 16. So that makes this piece minus 16. Okay. So these are the things that you're going to have to look at, okay? Because this is why the tangents, this section, I remember before we left for spring break, I said that this section of the test, of the two circles test, the second portion was a little bit more difficult because of stuff like this. All right. So these are the things that you're going to have to look at and pay close attention to. All right. So let's do another one. Find x. Find x.
Yes, it was actual class.
X equals 2.
How'd you get it?
I did what you told me, the 8 squared plus 15 squared equals c squared. When I
Okay.
got the whole thing, I got 17 for the whole thing.
Okay.
And I just did 17 minus 15.
So c squared equals 64 plus 225. So c squared is 289. So c is 17. So if that is 17, we know from here to here is 15 because all radii are the same. So that makes this 2. Okay, so there's another way I can ask the same problem type. Find the radius of the circle. Find the radius of the circle. Or better yet, find the diameter. What's the diameter of the circle? Don't wait for me to do it. Figure it out yourself. See how you can find the diameter.
Mr. Darian,
Sure.
on that, don't you have to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared to get that side, and then
Yeah.
get your radius to get your diameter?
Okay, so what am I going to be looking for? How am I going to plug it into this formula? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. What is a?
The third side of that triangle you're looking for. So this could be let me see, a or 13 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared.
No. No. Remember, what is c? What length is c?
Hypotenuse.
C is the hypotenuse. So which
Oh,
is my hypotenuse?
13.
13. So A is.
I think I got it, but I'm not sure if I'm right.
What did you get?
I got diameter equals 24.
Good. Walk me through it, Caleb. How'd you do it?
I just did x squared plus 5 squared equals 13 squared.
Okay. Okay, so we know this is 12. Now, how did you get 24 from 12?
Because the radius is half the diameter.
No, you got it backwards.
The diameter is the whole.
The diameter has the radius.
Yeah, the diameter is half the radius. So if the radius is 12, the diameter is double that, so 24. So there's many ways I can ask these problems, okay? That's the main thing. You got to understand, you got to be sort of fluid with your interpretation of the circle. Know that all radii are the same length. Know the relationship between the radii and the diameter. And you have to sort of be aware of all these things. Did anyone have any problems with the equation of a circle? First of all, is there any more questions regarding tangents, points of tangency, and stuff like that? You're going to have more problems like this later on, but these are your basic problems. I'm not a big fan of how they introduce the material. They introduce like basic concepts, and they throw in a couple of advanced concepts, and then they like leave it alone, and then they come bring back to the advanced concepts, and it doesn't make any sense to me. But it's the best of a bad situation. What can I do? Does anyone have any more problems with these? Okay, remember you're all
Not anymore.
okay. Cool. Now, let's talk about the equation of a circle. So remember, on a coordinate plane, the equation of a circle whose coordinates of the center are hk. So say, for example, I have a circle whose center is hk. The equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared. And we talked about this. So if the center of the circle was, say, 2, 1, and the radius was, say, 4, then we can plug it in and find the equation of the circle. It'll be x minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 16, which is what we get 4 squared. So the x coordinate is h, the y coordinate is k, and the radius, you have to square it. Okay. Now, remember we had a lot of these problems. I gave you problem types where I gave you the circumference and the center and asked you for the equation. I gave you the diameter and the center, asked you for the equation. I gave you the center and an end point, find the equation, and I gave you 2 endpoints, find the equation. So this is all stuff that you did on the last test, remember? So let's say, for example, I had the endpoints of a diameter being, that doesn't reflect the diameter. Say 3, 7, and -5, -1. What would be the equation of that circle? Remember those equations, those problem types?
3 minus 5 squared plus 7 minus 1 squared.
Okay, so what are you finding by doing that formula, Julian?
The diameter.
The center.
Okay, well, Julian plugged it into the distance formula. So remember the 2 formulas you need to know? One was midpoint, and the midpoint formula was x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. And the distance formula was x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. So the midpoint is what gave you your center, and the center plus an endpoint in the midpoint formula gives you the radius. Okay. So, for example, the center for this circle would be 3 plus -5 divided by 2, comma 7 plus -1 divided by 2. So the center here would be 3 plus -5 is -2 divided by 2 is -1. And 7 plus -1 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So your center is -1, 4. Now to find your radius, Remember, you're taking the center at either one of the endpoints and plugging it in. So -1 minus 3 squared plus 4 minus 7 squared. So -1 minus -3 is -4 squared plus -3 squared. That's 16 plus 9, which is 5. So now that I know my center is at -1, 4, and the radius is 5, I plug it in. So x minus -1 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 5 squared. So the equation of the circle is x plus 1 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 5. Okay. Any questions? I know I went through it fast, but this is stuff that you should have already seen before. So I'm hoping that this is just a jogging of your memory, if you will. Okay. Okay. If there's no questions, then let's talk about the circumference and arc length. So remember, the circumference formula is pi times diameter, or 2 times pi times r. Okay. And to find the arc length, remember it is the circumference times the arc measure divided by 360. So if I have a circle, okay, whose radius is, say, 2, and I know that the central angle is, say, 60 degrees, what would be my arc length? Okay. How would we calculate that? How do we calculate the arc length? So first thing, what would be the circumference of this circle? Anyone? Circumference of the circle. What would the circumference of the circle be?
360.
What?
360.
Circumference. So remember, the circumference is the perimeter of the circle. What is the formula for circumference?
Pi times diameter.
Right. So if the radius is 2, what is the circumference?
12.56.
Yeah, 12.56. And how'd you get it?
Multiply 2 times pi.
Not 2 times pi.
Well, pi times 4.
Well, if the radius is 2,
The whole thing is 4.
right, the radius is 2, the diameter is 4. So the circumference is pi times the diameter, which is 4 times pi, which is 3.14, which is, like I said, 12.56. So if the circumference is 12.56, what do I know my arc measure is? What's my arc measure? If I know my central angle is 60 degrees, what is the measure of my arc? What is the curvature of my arc? Guys,
Why don't you just multiply?
well, how is the central angle and the arc related?
60.
It's what?
60.
It's 60. It's the same, right? So we know that the circumference is 12.56 and the arc measure is 60. And so if I want to find the arc length, remember an arc has two types of measurements. One is the arc measure, which is in degrees, the curvature of the arc. And one is the arc length, which is the actual measurement, the length of the arc. So the arc length is circumference times the arc measure divided by 360. So circumference is, we calculated to be 12.56. Arc measure is 60 divided by 360. So the arc length would be what?
2.00 or 2.09333333.
So 2.09. Any questions? Remember how to, does everyone remember how to do this? Did somebody say no?
Yeah.
Okay, well, try to remember. Okay,
Question about this, but about the tangents.
okay, what you got for the tangent?
Could you go back to the ones you did, please, if you still have them?
Yeah. This one?
I think the one before that.
Okay.
So what if you only had x and 12, but you didn't know the radiuses? How would you find the radius?
If you just had x and 12,
Yeah. So I think that was on one of the quizzes.
you couldn't find it. You need more information. They have to give you either the radius or the diameter in order for you to be able to find any of this other information. So if all they gave you was this, there's absolutely no way you can find it, because you don't know a fundamental portion of the problem, which is the radius.
Okay.
So they got to give you some other, they can give you the circumference, they can give you the diameter, they can give you a lot of other information, but they got to give you some more information for you to determine what the radius is.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Guys, let's talk about something that we never talked about in class, which is the area of a circle. So the area of a circle is the actual inside. Okay. And the formula for area is pi times the square of the radius. Okay. So if the radius of a circle is 4, then the area would be 4 squared times 3.14, whatever that is in your calculator. So 16 times 3.14. Or the way we write it is in exact terms, which is 16 pi. Now, if the diameter of the circle is, say, 14, what would the area be? Well, remember the diameter, the radius is half the diameter, so it'll be 7 squared times pi, which is
21.9.
whatever the approximate is. Now, let's say, for example, I have a circle and let's just say the radius is 4 and the central angle is, say, 60 degrees. We found the arc length, but now we want to find the area of this wedge. We want to find this part right here, the area of this part right here. Okay. That area is known as a sector. Sector. Okay. That little piece right there, like the slice of a pizza, is known as the sector of the pizza. And to calculate the area of a sector, it's 1/2 r squared theta. Okay, now let me explain. This is the radius, and this is the arc measure. Okay.
Or 80.
Okay, so let's talk about this measure of the arc, okay?
Oh,
Hold on one second. Oh, okay. Scratch that, guys. That's in radian. So area is equal to the area of the circle, so pi r squared, times the angle measured divided by 360. So to go over the formulas, the arc length is circumference times the arc measure divided by 360. The sector is area of the circle times the measure divided by 360. Okay. So the arc length here would be
60.
16 pi times 60 divided by 360, whatever that is. So like 16 pi over 6. Okay. No, I'm sorry. My brain ain't working. No coffee this morning. So the circumference is pi over d. Oh, working too fast in my head. Circumference is 8 pi. So the arc length is 8 pi over 6, which is 4 pi over 3. Because remember, the arc length is the circumference times the arc measure divided by 360. So the length is, circumference is of this circle is 4 times 2, because it's a radius. So that's 8 pi times 60 divided by 360. Okay, now the sector is the same thing. It's the area of the circle times the arc measure divided by 360. So the area of the circle, remember the formula for the area of the circle is pi r squared. radius is 4. So the area is 16 pi. Okay. So if you plug it in, the sector area is 16 pi times 60 divided by 360. Whatever that gives you, approximately.
8.37.
So let's do one more like this. Okay. Find the arc length and the area of that sector. So let me write the formulas down. And remember, you don't have to memorize these formulas, it's just to work with it. Right, so circumference. What is the circumference of this circle? What's the circumference of this circle? If the radius is 12, what's the circumference?
75.36.
Okay, how'd you get it?
3.14 times 24, because 24 is the diameter.
Okay, so the diameter is 24 because it's double the radius times pi, which is, you said 75 point what?
36.
Okay, so if the circumference is 75.36, what is the arc length?
$25.12.
How'd you get it?
I did 75.36 times 120 divided by 360.
Okay, good. Right, now area. What is the area of this circle?
$150.72.
How'd you get it?
I did 3.14 times radius squared, which is 144 times 120 divided by 360.
Okay, so the area of the circle is 3.14 times 144. What is the area of the entire circle?
So you just multiply those two to find it?
Yeah, that's the area of the entire circle, yeah.
Oh,
452.16.
yeah.
Okay, now, if I wanted the area of just this sector, of just this piece right here, this little wedge, now I plug it into this formula, okay? So that's the area, which is 452.16 times the arc measure, which is 120, divided by 360. And what does that give me?
$150.72.
Any questions? Guys, I know this is not the most exciting thing to do in the world, and it's a bunch of boring formulas, and I personally hate it myself. But think about it this way. If you're ever, when you go to college and you are invited to a frat party and people are drinking and eating, and somebody is next to you and eating a piece of pizza, if you ever wanted to leave that party, you could tell them that you can calculate the amount of pizza that they ate. So
Who the
it
hell
worked
gonna
for
take?
me. I got thrown out of many parties because of that, and that's okay. You know, I had to find a way of leaving my frat brother, so that's the best way to do it. That and I got abused as well afterwards, but that's a different story. So. Nothing destroys the mood of a party than a mathematician sitting there telling you how much pizza you ate. Talk about buzzkill. So there you go. Any questions?
You on here?
So you guys are awfully quiet.
It's because we're tired.
Because you're tired.
I just woke up.
You just woke up.
Yeah.
What time did y'all go to bed?
Like one.
What?
2:30.
What are you? No, I was gonna ask you what are you doing up at 2:30 in the morning, but I don't think I want to know.
Man, look, I
I
would
was playing the game for real.
11, and
Okay,
I
what game
still
are y'all playing? Okay, so I've been playing what game?
I was on GTA. I was on 2K, and I was on COD.
2K, Madden, DJ, whatever.
Guys, did everyone get the first assignment done so I can put those grades in?
No.
It's the first assignment on. Let me see.
The one from yesterday?
No.
Yeah, the introduction to circles where all the vocabulary words.
I finished.
No.
Oh, hold up. I gotta do the yeah, let me do that. I just finished the lesson because I was on history all day yesterday.
This should take you all of like 10 minutes at most. I mean, and I think what you can do is I don't know how the Edgenuity is set up for you, but if you can potentially skip the lesson and the assignment. Well, no, skip the lecture, go straight to the assignment, do a couple of problems, and then do the quiz.
How? It won't let me do it.
It won't let you say
Reggie Dan,
yeah,
what percent do we need to be at?
60.
60.
Yeah.
By the end of the year?
No. I mean, you mean what percent completion or what percent?
Yeah, like.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, don't pay attention to all that nonsense. Just pay attention to your grades.
Well, I'm at 10, and it says I'm on target. Is that okay?
That's fine. Don't worry about whether you're on a target or not. You're going to follow the calendar that I gave you.
Okay.
And if any of you guys need retakes for the quiz, let me know, because I need you guys to have a 60 on the quiz. I don't really care about your assignments, your assignment grade. I'm not going to put that into the grade book. It doesn't matter to me at all what your assignment grades are. So quizzes, I want to be 60 or higher. So if you end up not doing well on a quiz and you take a retake and you still bomb it again, let me know. Message me via Remind or text me if you have my cell number, and I'll give you a couple more retakes for that.
Well, you ain't gonna text nobody back.
I'm not gonna text anybody back. No.
You texting me back?
Yeah, but
Well,
see, I like you. I don't like him.
I tried to help you. I tried to ask for help.
Huh?
I made an A on that damn quiz though.
You text me back.
I text everybody back besides Julian because Julian's the pain in the ass.
You know what?
He texts me back.
Yeah, I text everybody back besides him actually.
Go to hell.
No, I'm already there.
Yeah.
I'm making the place comfortable for you.
I accepted the Lord as my
Man,
Savior.
these bad ass class. They
The Lord
just
is your savior, but he's still gonna kick you down there.
Bring up.
Win.
Guys, I
I'm
know.
pretty sure I have a seat reserved right next to Satan, so.
Hey, that means you're gonna boot me out.
Can we get off
Well,
now? Are you done?
Shut
I'm
up!
done. Y'all can go. And
Okay, bye.
Bye!
Bye. Get out. Get out. All of you, get out.
I'm gonna fall with you.
I'm a fool with you.